everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast and Merry Christmas. Hope you're enjoying your holiday week. And today we are here to talk about the non-Hallmark holiday films, the Christmas films of 2023, our favorites. And I am film critic Grace Wagner. And of course, I had to have with me for this one, Michelle Benson is here.
Hey everyone.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not excited about going back to work tomorrow, but it's it's that weird sort of time in between Christmas and New Year. So I
Uh-huh.
opted to work that instead of Christmas. So I'm glad it sort of worked out the way that it has.
Yeah, you had 6 days off, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
for retail,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I hope you've been able to relax and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, a lot of dog walks, a lot of just chilling out, eating lots and lots of food, lots of chocolate.
Oh, good. Yeah, do you have a Christmas meal that you guys always have?
Yeah, just the boring sort of chicken and
Uh-huh.
trimmings.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't really do turkey because it's I find it quite hard to cook and not have it be like really dry.
Yeah.
I feel like it takes a lot of time, so the majority of people like prefer chicken anyway. My mum probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, so
Yeah.
we
No,
just went with chicken and
I agree. Yeah, it's very hard to make turkey taste good.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got an
really.
air fryer a couple of weeks ago and I'm obsessed with doing potatoes in that. So I've just yeah, just like
Oh.
doing veg and potatoes in that. It was really fun experimenting with different things
Uh-huh.
over the
Uh-huh.
last few days.
Yeah. Well, you've gotten to watch a bunch Hallmark and non-Hallmark movies this season. How do you think the season has been overall? What do you think?
I think Hallmark definitely won. I
Uh-huh.
think they have. I mean, when I look at my top 10 sort of non Hallmark Christmas, I mean, I would say maybe half of them I would watch again. The rest,
Hmm.
I feel like it's not even. I've really enjoyed obviously talking with you every week and talking
Right.
through these movies. But I just wish that we had, something like a big theatrical something. But we didn't have anything the sort of caliber of like Spirited. There was one, but it wasn't theatrical. There was
Yeah, for you
yeah, it was just
guys.
yeah,
I had two theatrical that you all didn't get, unfortunately.
yeah. I think we're getting that one in January, so it's a little bit disappointing in that sense. And also, there wasn't even. I mean, from a couple of years ago, one of my favorites was Happy Season, which I know was like a really polarizing one for a lot of people. But I think the fun thing about that was it just created a lot of conversation.
Hmm.
A
Hmm.
lot of back. It just feels like there wasn't even anything like that this year. It just felt like there was a couple of really good ones, a lot of sort of mediocre ones, and a lot of sort of disappointing ones. It just didn't feel like, um, it just felt like a lot of these networks like Netflix and Lifetime, and there just wasn't that much
Yeah.
attention given to the Christmas season. And I can kind of
Yeah.
understand it because they kind of went crazy the last couple of years, and maybe it
Yeah.
hasn't paid off, and they're just sort of pulling back a little bit. I don't know, but definitely,
Well,
like, think Hallmark is definitely the winner of the season.
yeah, no question. And the other networks, I mean, just made way less. There was less to choose from than previous years. And yeah, I don't know. It's an eclectic. I have an eclectic weird list, but a lot of I have to admit my top 10 kind of go back to also like podcast memories and things like that, which that's part of enjoying film is your experiences around it. So, but let's dive in. Let's talk about our favorites. So, what do you have at number 10?
My number 10 is a one that I just caught up with. It was a theatrical one, but I didn't see it in the theatres. I saw it at home, and that was Silent Night, which is the
Oh,
new
okay. I
John Woo film.
saw. I didn't see it.
Yeah,
So,
I wouldn't say that it's a great action film. I think when you think John Woo, you sort of have this idea of what you're going to get. And it was a
uh-huh.
little disappointing in that sense. This is the one where he sort of goes on a bit of Joel Kinnaman goes on a bit of a um, vigilante sort of rampage after his son is killed.
Uh-huh.
Um, and his vocal cords are completely destroyed when his son is killed. Along with his son, his vocal cords are destroyed, so the entire film has no dialogue.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
intriguing to me.
yeah, that's a really cool idea, but again, I just don't think that it fully made sense.
Uh-huh.
Especially because there is a lot of scenes with him at home with his wife
Uh-huh.
after the son has been killed, and it just doesn't make sense that no dialogue is coming from her. Um,
Oh, right. Yeah, that's
yeah, it
true.
was just, and even the action, it wasn't super memorable. It just felt like kind of like there's nothing that really stood out for me. Um, it was very
Hmm.
gory, so I probably going to have known that it's going to be very, very gory. But yeah, there was nothing that really stood out for me. I'd really like Joe Kinnaman, but
Yeah.
his projects are sort of hit and miss. Um, Sometimes he's good, sometimes sometimes he's just landed in these projects that just aren't great. Like RoboCop and things like
Yeah,
that.
he
But
has the
yeah,
Suicide Squad.
yeah. So
Oh.
yeah, he was so good. He was in a TV show called The Killing a few years back. It's sort of the first thing that I seen him in. He was so good in that. Um, I've just been waiting on him being as good in something else. But yeah, this
Well,
is a fine movie. But yeah, I wouldn't go in expecting top tier John Woo.
I guess that shows your list if that gets a number 10.
Yeah,
That's not, my number 10 is very different from your number 10, that's for sure. I have Christmas at the Amish Bakery at number 10. Um, and this was a sweet movie that was on UpTV, and I had such a good time covering it on the podcast. It was so cool. I asked Galadriel Steinman to come on the podcast. I didn't think that she would do it because she has like nothing to do with this, uh, this movie. And a lot of times actors are hesitant to like, and I
criticize
understand
other.
why, to
Yeah,
like, yeah, to analyze other people's work, and like I understand why. But she was totally up for it, and she had such a good time on the interview that I'd done with her and Kevin, her husband. And so that made me feel good that she had, good memories. And we had such a good time together talking. And I thought it was such a good episode of the podcast. And I think it's a cute movie. Some of the acting isn't the best, as it's a little bit amateur, but overall, I thought the story was good, and I liked the fact that it focused on this family more than the romance. It was her coming back home, and her family wasn't like judgmental or bitter. They were like, "Oh, we're so glad to have you back," and her relationship with her sister and her father was good, and her dad was like, I raised you right. You're a good person. Just because she had, left the fold, they were still loving and kind, and then there were a lot of good like food scenes, baking scenes, except for I wish she had put her hair up. She had this long hair and she's like cooking, and I'm like, oh. But other than that, it was fun seeing them put together this cookbook. So I liked it. I thought it was a cute little sweet movie.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So, what do you have at number 9?
At number 9, it's another one that I just caught up with on Shutter, which was It's a Wonderful Knife.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yes.
really had fun with this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wish they'd sort of lent into the comedy horror aspects of it a little bit more. But yeah, I
Uh-huh.
thought this was just such a like carefree, fun slasher film.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit slasher light, so I wouldn't go in expecting something like, Scream or, I know what you did last summer or
Yeah.
something like that. It's definitely a little bit lighter.
There's
Because they
some
do have,
gory moments though, like when they
yeah,
put that candy cane through that person's face. Oh
yeah,
my
that's probably
God.
about, yeah, it's about as gory as it gets. But yeah, it was a fun one. And
Yeah.
yeah, that it's something different. Because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
after watching so many TV movies where they sort of start to blend in, it's nice to have one that sort of
Yeah.
breaks up the monotony a little bit. And I had fun with this. I hadn't seen the
Mm-hmm.
majority of the casting and anything, and Justin Long is in this one. He's kind of
So good.
hilarious. Like,
I
he
don't know
sort
if
of,
you agree, but I feel like this movie was more a parody of Hallmark movies than it was It's a Wonderful Life. Would you agree?
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. I think it's the idea of like the Angel Falls town and
Yes. And him being the mayor and the bad man of
yeah, the
business who
bad man
wants
of
to
business.
turn
Yeah,
everything into condos.
yeah, there's a lot of fun. It was a slasher, it was a parody, it was a bit of a comedy. Yeah, it was a fun one.
Because I think they could have done more to lean into the It's a Wonderful Life. Like they could have called the place like Pottersville or like had little Martini's bar. You know what I mean? Like little winks more than they did. They could have had someone in Clarence, things like that. That would have been. There was just not that much of that kind of stuff
Yeah.
for It's a Wonderful Life. But I enjoyed it as well, and I had a really good time talking about it and holiday horror with Lee from Drum Dums and Sean Chandler. I thought that was another fun episode of the podcast. Something different, trying something different. And so I'm glad that made your list and you got to see it. Okay, so my number 9 is Yes Chef Christmas. I had a lot of fun on the podcast talking about this with Haley Strong. Anytime I can get Haley Strong on, I'm going to do it because she's so funny and so she's just a good friend of mine. And when I saw that it was about like a supposed baking competition, I was like, ooh, okay, because she has a podcast about Top Chef and she loves baking. She even has I think a food Instagram cooking account, and so she loves baking and cooking, and so I thought, oh, she'll like this, and about Buddy Valastro in it and everything, and I think it was fun. I think Tia was enjoyable, and where it was really strong was sort of the back and forth between her and this guy. They kind of they start off on the wrong foot and competitive, getting ready for this they have to work together for this competition, and that's fun. They try to have this whole subplot of her finding out that she's her finding out who her birth family is, and that was like the big deal this holiday season on all the networks. Everybody was adoption, 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 and it was on everybody's mind, including in this movie. And so yeah, and that was a little. I didn't need all that drama. I could have just had it be more them feuding back and forth. But it was still entertaining. And so yeah, it's my number 9. It was nice because I've had Haley watch a lot of really 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 bad ones because because Cody Calafiore, who's one big brother, we try to do whenever I have her on either when something is about reality TV or that stars a reality TV contestant. And so we talked about ones with Wyatt Nash and Cody Calafiore and people like that. And so we had we had some pretty bad ones. So I was like, at least this is one I am not embarrassed to show you. And she's like, I only watch like 4 or 5 movies every year. I was like, oh no. choices take up too many spots. But
Amazing.
anyway, she's funny, she's hilarious, and we have a good time. So that had to make my number 9. What about you? What's your 8?
My number 8 is A Christmas Serenade.
Oh yeah, I didn't get around watching this. But
Yeah, I
you said it
really
was really
enjoyed this
good.
one. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Let's say there was sort of that initial sort of 15, 20 minutes where she was so mad at him that I was sort of expecting for this big sort of bomb to drop of like
Yeah,
why he left her, why he abandoned her. Um, because her reaction to him is so sort of like visceral initially. And it ended up sort of being something that we've seen a bunch of times in these movies. Her mom passed away and he sort of wasn't there for her, but it wasn't an intentional thing. So it didn't really make sense that she was as mad at him as she was. That sort of goes away, sort of into the second act of the film, and I think the strongest part of this film is the music. I mean, they have like a fully like beautiful produced full song in this movie. And I
yeah,
thought it was really well
that's
performed,
good.
and the music throughout it was really, really good as well. So yeah, I think this one definitely, especially going in, not sort of knowing what you're going to get and being surprised. That was sort of why this one had to be on the list because it's the best feeling when one sort of surprises you.
Yeah, that's true. It really is when something comes out of the blue. I have a couple like that coming up. So very good. Well, my next pick is where I have Merry Little Batman.
Hmm.
This was real cute. I do think it should have been 45 minutes. It wore out its welcome at 90 minutes, but overall I laughed quite a bit. I liked the animation. I liked the style of it, the use of colors. I enjoyed that, and I it had a lot of kind of pokes at the superhero world and the movie world and Christmas, and overall it ended up still being sweet, and I had a good time, with it, and so yeah, and ended up at number 8. What do you have at number 7?
My number 7 is Christmas Plus One, with Corey
Oh,
Savior. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I think more when I think about it. I mean, this movie is a couple of years old now, and it's
yeah,
probably why I feel the way that I do, and that it's a little bit nostalgic. It feels
right.
a little bit, it feels a little bit like the movies did get it around, 2022, which is when it was made. Probably 2021 when it was made. Yeah, it sort of feels very sort of like classic Christmas TV movie. It's a plot we've seen a bunch of times, and there's nothing. It's very comforting. There's no like big surprises. Corey's as good as he sort of always is in these movies.
Yeah,
He's really like charming, and he makes a bunch of these movies, so it's sort of good when there's at least a couple of them that do stand out.
yeah. I
Yeah,
actually didn't end up watching this one. I missed it that week, and I never caught up on it, which I really should, because I love Andrew Bushell so much, and I
yeah.
like Corey as well. But I love.
They did sort of a good thing of having her have chemistry with two sort of guys in this film, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, but also having you root for the person that she's meant to sort of be with,
Right.
and with Corey. So yeah, I definitely sort of pushed this one up a little bit on the
Oh,
list
that's
because
good.
yeah, it just felt a very nostalgic watch.
Only in Christmas movies would a new release be a nostalgic one that you've seen
Yeah,
years and years.
yeah.
That's funny. Well, my number 7 is The Naughty Nine. Really enjoyed this on Disney Plus. Danny Glover comes in as Santa at the end. That's fun. Winslow Fegley, such a good child star. It was a clever concept, the idea of all these kids on the naughty list going storming the North Pole and they get on the right list. I thought the production design was all pretty well done. Like it was a believable for this kind of budget and everything. I thought it looked pretty good as far as the North Pole and everything. And yeah, it was a fun holiday family film, I think.
Still to
Yeah.
catch up with that one.
Yeah. So what do you have at 6?
At 6, I have A Diva's Christmas, Ladies of the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Didn't really
Yeah.
have high expectations or really any expectations going into this one. Because there's only a few of these women that I'm like familiar with. So I sort of wasn't really sure what I was going to get or if I was going to get anything out of it. And I honestly just thought it was really fun, really camp. They sort of played up on what you would expect them to. The
Yeah.
chemistry between the women
Yeah.
was really, really fun, and it felt like they
Mhm.
were all sort of on the same page. And um, the romance aspect of it was really fun too. Like we said in a review that I think you had brought up that um, if they lead into a little bit more of the matchmaking aspect, that would have been a little bit more fun.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think overall, like I had fun with this one. It was a fun
Yeah.
watch. And
That was definitely my favorite part was the matchmaking. Like I would watch a whole series of these women matchmaking people. I think that would be highly entertaining. Like make them the next Queer Eye, but ladies of the 80s, you know. Uh, it was about as good as I think this kind of gimmick could be.
yeah,
It's just hard when you have so many personalities and so much going on, like to tell a cohesive story. And so, yeah, I think they did just about all they could do on that one.
We'd like to take a second to thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's author Jennifer Snow and her book, An Alaskan Christmas. In Alaska, it's always a white Christmas, but the sparks flying between two reunited friends could turn into red hot in best-selling author Jennifer Snow's An Alaskan Christmas. If there's one gift Erica Sheraton does not want for Christmas, it's a vacation. Ordered to take time off, the workaholic surgeon reluctantly trades in her scrubs for a ski suit and heads to Wild River, Alaska. Her friend Cassie owns a tour company that offers adventures to fit every visitor, but nothing compares to the adrenaline rush Erica feels on being reunited with Cassie's older brother, Reed Reynolds. Gone is the buttoned-up girl Reed remembers. His sister's best friend has blossomed into a strong, skilled, confident woman. She's exactly what his search and rescue team needs and everything he didn't know he craved. The gulf between his life in Wild River and her big city career is wide, but it's no match for a desire powerful enough to melt two stubborn hearts. So this holiday season, get your steamy, spicy rom-com fix with An Alaskan Christmas from author Jennifer Snow. And you can find it wherever you purchase your holiday reads or using the affiliate link below.
So my number 6 is where I have Genie. This was a huge surprise. I didn't even know this movie was coming out. I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know it was a holiday film. Nothing. But then I heard some good things, so I started watching it. And I was like, this is really funny. I'm totally enjoying this. And Melissa McCarthy, she's been in some really bad comedies the last few years, particularly for Netflix. And so this one was for Peacock. And I'm watching it and I'm like, this is good. This is really good. And then I look, Richard Curtis wrote it. And, of course, he's a legend. And it all started to make sense. My favorite part of the whole movie was she's standing outside a glass window of a gym, and she's watching the person do like the lat like pull down thing, and she's like, I thought after all these years this kind of torture wouldn't be tolerated. And they're like,
it's so funny.
he actually pays to do that. And she's like, sure, sure. And then she goes on, I will avenge you. It's really funny. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was sweet and funny and a big welcome surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do you have at 5?
At 5, I feel like my top 5 takes a significant jump up. So I have Merry Magic Christmas,
That one
which
was
is one of
good.
which is one of the last Lifetime ones that we watched. I'm starting to get a little
Yeah.
worried because other than one other movie, which is next on my list, like Lifetime just wasn't
Yeah.
doing it. They weren't, delivering in the way that we've come to sort of expect them to
Yeah.
in years. So I was so glad when this one did deliver. There was really good
Yeah.
chemistry. It was sort of a save the theatre one, which is something that think both of us really care about. So
Yeah.
it sort of got us invested in a way that we would normally wouldn't be if it was save the random, thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was really good. He was a little infuriating, and it has sort of like, oh, the money will just appear whenever it needs to, and like
Yeah.
that sort of drove me crazy
Well,
a little bit.
and will forever just be baffled by that summary.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
magic number 624. Like, what are they talking about? Like, I have no idea.
yeah. That was a journey. Like every time we had to read, Rachel had to read that like and decipher.
But I had this
Um,
at 11, and so I wanted to talk about Amish Bakery because particularly the podcast, Memory with Galadriel. But yeah, this one was strong. I can see why it's on your list. I had a lot of fun with it.
yeah, and I think the lead, Patricia Isaac, I really, really want
Yeah, I liked
hope to
her.
see her again because I think she was sort of the big surprise of this.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
she was super charming, and it's
Hmm.
not an easy role to come in and be sort of the financial person and
Yeah.
the business person in these
Hmm.
movies. And I thought she did a really good job and was really like um charming and relatable and
Yeah,
just sort of a nice character to follow. So yeah, I'm sort
I
of glad
agree.
that this movie happened because, like I said, I was starting to get a little worried that Lifetime just wasn't doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my number five is also from Lifetime, and I know you're gonna have it higher. But it's Christmas at the Chalet. Such a good movie. Like just a genuinely like good, not even just holiday movie, but just a good movie about this woman who wants to be near her son for Christmas. So she goes and stays at the chalet, but she can't get in, so she works as a maid, and there was no shaming for her doing that. It was actually quite empowering for her, and she has this relationship with this business guy, and is cute, and Terry's great, and I liked everything with her son and his little romance. It was really good. I
Yeah.
liked it a lot, and I'm hoping to get to talk to the writer one of these days. I've tried to reach out. If you're listening, I want to talk to you because I think you are a good writer.
Hmm.
Yes, and sure, give her a shout out. Julia Cranny, you are a good writer, Julia. So if you're listening, give
Come on
us a
the
call.
podcast.
Yeah, we want to talk to you. But what do you have at 4?
At 4, I have Christmas at the Chalet, so
Yeah, it's so good.
yeah, good placement.
Yes.
Yeah, I really just appreciate it as someone who's, done those types of jobs. It
Yeah.
sort of is really infuriating when you see them portrayed on TV as sort of something lesser.
Right.
Fact that she sort of goes in and um, there's no sort of shame in it. There's no sort of um, and even when people around her are trying to sort of make her feel that way, her
Yeah.
ex-husband and the people, like she's just not having it.
Right.
So that was just like a big part of that movie that I really appreciated.
I did. Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
agree.
I think Terry is just fantastic in these movies. Like when she
Yeah.
gets like a really good script, I feel like she really
Mhm.
elevates the project. So
Yeah.
yeah, this was just such a surprise because I believe it was an acquisition as well, so it wasn't even like
Yeah.
made by Lifetime. Yeah, really good one.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, both Mary Magic and Christmas Shelley were both acquisitions, and they were both some of the best things that Lifetime did
Yeah,
last year for
100%.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my number 4 is one I don't think they've released over there is Journey to Bethlehem.
They haven't, but
I
I'm
think.
gonna try it today because I keep seeing
Oh,
it's having like a little viral moment on TikTok just now,
oh,
like
really?
The Antonio Banderas song, and I keep seeing it, and I'm like,
Yes.
I need to see this one.
Are they like, is it like a positive viral or are they making
Yeah,
fun of
yeah, it's
it? Oh,
like
good.
yeah, they're like how does a movie like called Journey to Bethlehem have such a banger? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yes. Well, it was super fun to interview the director, Adam Anders, on the pod, and they really were trying to kind of push their audience. I appreciated that, like doing some a little bit risky things, and also the songs were. I mean, not just that song. The like all the songs are bangers. If you like Glee, if you like Greatest Showman, if you like, that kind of music, then you'll really enjoy this music. You don't have to be like super religious for this. You really don't. I mean, to enjoy the music that they like, especially Antonio Banderas, like he knew the job and he camps it up. He's having fun, and and I really appreciate that I think Hallmarkies will really like the movie because it's a love story. It's focusing on the love story of Joseph and Mary, which that's accurate. I mean, he didn't have to marry her in that day and age, but he did, and there is a love story there, and they have like a meet cute in the market, and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think Hallmarkies will really enjoy it, and the music is super fun, and I just felt like it could have been really boring and like solemn and just the story, but they made it entertaining.
Mhm.
And and it was also kind of fun. This was the first time I've ever been quoted in a marketing campaign for a like wide release, which was kind of fun. It said Rachel's review is up there.
If anybody deserves it, it's you at this time of year. Like you watch everything.
So that was fun. All right. What do you have at 3?
At 3, I've got Genie. So this was one that I
Yeah.
sort of had to catch up with a little bit later.
Mhm.
I really, really,
It was good,
really,
right?
yeah, it was really, really good. I love
Mhm.
Melissa McCarthy, even in ones that people find her a bit grating in. I just really like her humor. And
Mhm.
I feel like it was maybe a little bit more, and it
I just
felt,
wish
even
she
though,
wouldn't make movies with her husband anymore. I just am
yeah,
not
mm-hmm,
like the ones where she's not working with her husband. I mean, I know they have a wonderful marriage and that's awesome, but the ones where she's not working with her husband are so much. So yeah, please spend time apart, please.
yeah. I mean, I think previous to this, I think Spy was probably my favorite of hers. And I don't even think this is as good as her performance in Spy, but um it had been a while since I'd watched something with her where I really laughed as much as I did in that film.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she's played sort of a very outlandish character, it is a little bit more toned down than what we do see from
Yeah,
her, especially lately.
yeah.
And the lead in this is in a really big show over here. He's in the Lazarus Project,
No,
it's
okay.
called, and it's like
He was good. I
this.
liked him.
It's like this fun sort of time travel show. So it was really nice to see him in sort of the sort of dad role
Yeah.
in this one. And I thought he was really sweet and really charming. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one.
Well, in that whole plot of, the overworked dad, the workaholic dad getting learning his lesson, I usually hate that, but they did pretty well in this one. They did
Yeah,
a pretty good job
the
with
only
it.
thing I don't understand is why it wasn't released theatrically. Like I feel like it's been.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I guess they were just trying to get people to watch Peacock, but even with like Five Nights at Freddy's, they released that on Peacock same day, and it still did pretty well. So yeah, I don't know why it didn't get a
It was sort of
rollout.
it wasn't free for me to watch, but it came along with the package that I have. So yeah, I would have happily paid to go see this in the cinema.
Yeah, me too.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
All right, my number 3 is where I have We're Scrooged. This was on UPTV. I thought it was very clever. The idea of doing a Christmas Carol story, a Scrooge narrative, from that it was a couple. It was 2 people getting Scrooged, and she was definitely portrayed as more of the actual Scrooge. Like at the beginning, she disses the bell ringing Santa. And she's and you're like, oh, she's gone. She's far gone. And he's much less. But it was fun to see like the banter, and they have like a Santa character, and I liked each of the ghosts. I thought were clever. The past was their former guidance counselor, and who had given them kind of bad advice, and then present was an AI robot, which I thought was actually pretty clever and smart. And then the future was like evil versions of themselves. So they see like, ooh, this is me as the bad man of business. This is me as the workaholic female executive, ice queen of business. And and of course I love Andrew Bushell, and he's great in this, and he was really having a lot of fun as Evil Scott. And so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very clever, and one of my favorites of this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've yet to watch some of the up ones.
Yeah, it's really hard to come up with a new way to do Christmas Carol. So yeah, and so what do you have at number 2?
At number 2, I've got Candy Cane Lane. It's probably the
it was fun.
sort of comedy from the sort of the big streamer that I enjoyed the most this year. I mean, you really can't go wrong with Eddie Murphy, and I feel like he's someone that when he pops up and you haven't seen him in a little bit, it's like you sort of appreciate him all over again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and
yeah, he had a rough batch for a while there. He was like nearing Adam Sandler territory for me, and I'm just like, oh, I at least started to dread Eddie Murphy comedies. But this was sweet. This was a nice family story, and it had some good laughs and some creative. I liked the animation, like the birds and other characters. The only thing I didn't love, Jillian Bell as the villain. I didn't love that. And I do think it's way too long. It should have been 80 minutes, and it was 2 hours. But it was fun. I enjoyed it too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. Probably the best part about it was the family dynamic. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. When you see it sort of done badly, you're like, appreciate it when it's done well.
Well, my number 2 is Xmas. Really enjoyed. I loved the whole premise. That I could totally picture my parents if they met one of their kids' exes and they were sure the kid wasn't coming, being like, "Sure, come on over." I could totally picture that happening. And so there was a funny premise, and he shows up, and they did enemies to lovers so well, and I hate you so much. I hate you more. I hate your face. I hate you. And I loved the supporting cast, and Michael Hitchcock was so funny in it, and it really captured sort of the screwball comedies, because a lot of times the like family shenanigans aren't my favorite, those kinds of holiday movies, but this one it worked for me. The whole scene where they get high was hilarious. And we had a lot, I had a lot of fun talking to Jonah Feingold, the director. We're having him on for our Patreon watch along. And he knows his rom-coms. He knows his stuff. So I'm definitely going to be supporting and following his career however I can.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just, they had great chemistry. So that was my number 2. And so what is your number 1?
Surprise. Xmas.
Yes, I knew it.
Yeah, this was definitely the best comedy of the year. Definitely the best like couple that I was actively like
Yeah.
rooting for throughout the entire movie. Like the chemistry was so good, the chemistry with the family was so good. Like I loved how much they loved her. I
Yeah.
like the sisters sort of little storyline.
Yeah.
There was just like the family dynamics, and it's one of those movies. There's so much happening because they have this family in this sort of enclosed space, and they're all sort of speaking over each other and like little throwaway lines. It definitely, when you go back and you rewatch it, you pick up on those things. Like I feel like everything that came out of the mum's and dad's mouth was just gold. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, like the chemistry between the family, like that's just not something that's easy to put on film.
Right.
And I feel like, however he managed to get these people together and have them, that's just sort of kismet, just having people that have that natural chemistry with each other. But yeah, this
Yeah.
was such a fun movie, and
Hmm.
I loved the sort of shift when they sort of start to get back together, because it's like they sort of do that thing where it is sort of they hate each other, but you know all along that they don't.
Yeah.
Like, and they're so good at playing that. Like,
Yeah.
you can right through it as an audience. But yeah, it was so fun. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely the biggest surprise of the year, because
Yeah.
I don't even think until we started doing this sort of preview that this movie was even happening. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, we
fun.
barely got it in the All the Rest preview. The trailer had come out that day. And so I was like, oh, what is this? So we did have it in that
Hmm.
I did with Ryan and Jennifer. But yeah, it did come out of nowhere for me as well. And it was just so much fun. Well, my number one is, it's not really fair because it's a feature, even though I did have Journey to Bethlehem, which is also a feature. But it's The Holdovers. It's one of the best films of 2023. It's so funny. It's so well written. Maybe a perfect script. The acting is so good. And it's not really fair though, because it's not been released where in the UK yet, which is frustrating. But it's about this college and high school. It's about this high school professor played by Paul Giamatti, who teaches at the sporting school in the 70s, and he gets assigned the task to be the holdover professor, to be with the students who don't have anywhere to go for Christmas. And it ends up really just being one student by about 15 minutes or so into the movie. And it's him, this one student, Dominic Sessa, is the actor, and it's so crazy because this was his first acting he ever did in a film, at least. And I guess they were having they couldn't find the right kid for this role, and they were filming at a high school, at a preparatory boarding school place in New England, and so they just did a cold casting call there at that school, and they found him, and he's so good, and I think it adds to the authenticity of his performance and to the role. And then Divine Joy Randolph is excellent as the lunch lady whose son went to this school, and so the three of them are this unlikely trio celebrating the holidays together, and it was just excellent, and I hope it wins all the awards. It should. It's great. If people liked if people liked other Alexander Payne films, then you'll definitely like this. Movies like Sideways and The Descendants and About Schmidt. He's just a really, really good writer and director and storyteller. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed. I guess he didn't actually write this one. David Hemingson is the name, but David crushed it. You're right. So there we go. That is my favorite, and I hope that eventually you get to see it because it's great. But that is our top 10 non-Hallmark holiday films. Let us know what your favorites are in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And Michelle, where can people follow you?
On Twitter at Michelle R. Benson.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So we should appreciate that. And make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave your rating and reviews, 5 stars. We sure appreciate that. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our patron group where you can be part of watch-alongs like with Exmas and Jonah Feingold and other really awesome opportunities. So please check the Patreon. And then we have our merch store where you can get tons of fun Hallmark and you get tons of fun Hallmark and movie inspired merch. So please take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody, and Merry Christmas!